Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
An episode of Father Knows Best starring Robert Young going back to November 29th, 1951, The Meteor.
Mother, is Maxwell House the best coffee in the whole world?
Well, your father says so, and your father knows best.
Yes, it's Father Knows Best, transcribed in Hollywood, starring Robert Young as father. A half-hour visit with your neighbors, the Andersons, brought to you by Maxwell House, the coffee that's bought and enjoyed by more people than any other brand of coffee at any price. Maxwell House, always good to the last drop. Here's a quotation I'm sure you all remember. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth I know not where. I lose more darned arrows that way. Or something like that. Anyway, tonight we aren't exactly concerned with arrows, but we are interested in other things that fall to earth. Meteors, to be exact. When a meteor crashes to earth, a heavenly hot rod on the loose, that's news. When it crashes in the backyard of the white frame house on Maple Street and becomes the personal property of the Andersons, that's news with an unpredictable future. Like this.
Ink. Ink. Where do they hide the ink? I'll leave it to my kids. If it isn't nailed down, it's gone. Margaret! What a way to run things. Can't ever find anything when you need it. Someday I'll come home and there won't be any house. Serve 'em right, too. If I ran my office the way they run things around here, we'd be heading for the poorhouse right now. Margaret.
Just a minute, dear. There you are. How does that look?
It looks fine, but do you think we'll have enough for 16 girls?
Oh, we aren't half finished. We've got all the little sandwiches to make.
Oh, I was beginning to get worried.
Margaret.
Just a minute, dear. Betty.
Yes, Mother?
Honey, all I want is the ink.
Jim, what would we be doing with the ink?
I don't know.
Have you looked for it?
Naturally, I've looked for it. I've looked everywhere the ink could possibly be. In the fireplace, under the rug, on top of the chandelier.
That's fine, dear. Do you think 4 plates of sandwiches will be enough?
Well, it depends on how big the plates are.
Margaret, you aren't even listening to me.
Of course I am. Figuring 20 sandwiches to a plate, that would be 80 sandwiches.
But they're so small.
Honey.
How about 6 plates?
I think that'd be better, don't you?
Margaret.
Let's see now. The deviled eggs and the sandwiches and... How about an aspic salad with lime jello?
That sounds wonderful.
Luella.
Then some ginger cookies and some brownies and something to drink. That certainly ought to be plenty, don't you think?
Tallulah.
Jim, what do you want?
I want the ink.
Why do you suddenly need the ink?
Because Mr. Gribble is coming over to sign for insurance on the new apartment house he's building, and I haven't finished making out the papers. And the Home Office just passed a new rule that they won't accept insurance papers that are written in blood. That's why I need the ink.
Oh. Have you looked in the desk?
Just forget that I ever mentioned it, please.
But, dear, if you need the ink...
I'll go down to the aquarium and see if I can't find a friendly octopus. They give wonderful ink.
Kathy?
Is she an authority on octopi?
No, dear, on ink. Kathleen!
I'm out here, Mommy.
Will you please come into the kitchen?
Okay.
Honey, if I know Kathy, it'll be much easier for me to go out and buy a new bottle of ink.
That's silly, dear. We've got a bottle of ink. All we have to do is find it.
That's all.
Did you want me, Mommy?
Of course not. Your mother was practicing to be a Swiss yodeler.
She was?
Jim.
Couldn't we have a cake instead of cookies?
Betty, will you please...
But, Father, this is important.
So is Mr. Gribble.
Kathy, Have you seen the ink?
What ink?
The ink.
Oh, Kathy, it's very important that your father find the ink. Where is it?
I don't know.
Why didn't you say that in the first place?
You didn't ask me that in the first place. You asked me if I saw it, and I did.
Where?
In the garage.
What were you doing with ink in the garage?
Well, I didn't have it. Bud did. He and Joe Phillips were making signs.
What kind of signs?
About the meteor.
Oh, well, suppose you go out in the garage and... The meteor?
Uh-huh.
What meteor?
The one in the backyard.
Now, look, Kathy, if you're going to make up these wild stories...
But I'm not, Daddy, honest.
We have a meteor? In our backyard?
Sure.
Let's go outside.
Okay.
Jim, if Mr. Gribble comes...
I'll be in the backyard, honey. I'm going to teach these children that when I ask for the truth, I want the truth.
But it is the truth, Daddy.
How about the ink?
We'll take care of the ink later.
I didn't tell a fib, Daddy. Honest, I didn't.
Kathy, if a meteor falls anywhere, people for miles around can hear it. It makes a noise like... Well, it makes a very loud noise.
Bud said maybe it landed last night while we were at the movies.
Then one of the neighbors would have heard it. After all...
But this is only a little meteor. See?
Kathy, that isn't a meteor. It's a plain, ordinary rock.
But it's so black.
It's still a rock.
If it's a rock, how did it get in our backyard?
Well, that's a very good question.
And how come it's still hot?
Kathy...
It is, Daddy. Feel it.
By golly, it is hot.
Bud says that's how you can tell it's a meteor.
I still say, where is he?
Bud? Oh, he and Joe Phillips are putting up the signs. We're going to charge admission.
There's something fishy going on here, and if I find out... It's certainly hot, all right.
Bud says anybody ought to be glad to pay a dime to see a real live meteor.
Margaret!
He says it's probably the only meteor that ever fell in anybody's backyard in the whole neighborhood.
Honey!
What is it, Jim?
Come out here a minute.
Jim, Betty is having 16 girls from her sorority for tea.
But there's a meteor out here.
That's fine.
It's still hot, Mommy.
Don't go too close to it, dear.
Margaret, ask Betty if she knows anything about meteors.
Betty's answering the front door.
Well, when she comes back, ask her if she knows anything...
Here she is, dear.
Father.
Betty, do you know anything about meteors?
About what?
Meteors.
Tell her it's still hot.
It's still... Why don't you let me handle this?
Father.
Well, do you?
Mr. Gribble's here.
I wouldn't care if... Oh, tell him I'll be right in.
Okay. Maybe he'd like to see the meteor.
Kathy, for the last time... Betty, ask him if he'd like to see the meteor.
What meteor?
This meteor.
Jim!
JP, come on out here. I'd like you to see this.
Tell him it's still hot.
Kathy, if I hear one more word out of you...
Now, see here, Jim. I'm a busy man. I haven't got time to go running around looking at every fool... What's that?
Well, we think it's a meteor.
Poppycock. What do you think you are to have a meteor fall in your backyard?
Tell him it's still hot.
Kathy, so help me if you don't stop
What are you two mumbling about?
Nothing, JP. I told Kathy it was just a rock, but...
It's still hot.
JP, Kathy, why don't you go into the house?
But, Daddy!
Why, George, it is hot, isn't it?
Yes, but it's probably just something the boys...
You know, the more I look at... Jim, look at this.
What?
This black formation. That's iron oxide.
Oh? It does look like iron oxide, doesn't it?
You know what causes that, don't you?
Well, naturally, Naturally.
Jim, when a meteor hits the Earth's atmosphere, the friction causes intense heat, and, by George, that is a meteor.
It is?
Look at it. See those flow marks and that irregular pitting? Jim, this is sensational.
Oh, I don't know, JP. It's only a small meteor.
Small? Why, it's half buried in the ground, and I'll bet it weighs over 100 pounds.
I know.
Jim, my boy, this is one of the greatest things that ever happened to us.
Well, it's us.
Why, when the State Historical Society hears about this, we're a cinch to become honorary members.
We are.
I can just see the headline. Springfield industrialist discovers Meteor.
Mr. Gribble.
Just a minute, Kathy. You know, J.P., I don't like to say anything, but this is my backyard.
Well, naturally, my boy, and you'll go down in history as the man whose backyard was lucky enough to receive this heavenly gift.
I know, but if there's going to be a headline...
Jim, are those insurance papers ready for my signature?
No, but as soon as I find... Oh, I see what you mean.
Mr. Gribble.
Kathy, please don't annoy Mr. Gribble right now.
I wasn't annoying him.
Of course he wasn't. What is it, child?
You owe me a dime.
Kathy.
Well, Bud said everybody had to pay a dime.
But, kitten, Mr. Gribble...
And besides, it's for a worthy cause.
She's absolutely right, Jim.
J.P.
Furthermore, I consider it a privilege. Here you are, Kathy. 10 cents for, what is the worthy cause?
We're going to buy sodas.
Yeah, Jim, if we want this to hit the morning papers, I'd better get busy on it right away.
But how about your building insurance?
Later, my boy, later. First, I'm going to see to it that our Meteor story is given the proper attention.
But, J.P.
We've got to do this thing right, you know. Reporters, photographers, the full treatment. I'll be back before you can say hello, Bud.
Hi, Mr. Gribble.
Hello, my boy. Beautiful day, isn't it? I'll be back in a few minutes, Jim. Don't go away.
I'll be here, J.P.
What's he all excited about? Hiya, Dan.
Hello, Mr. Anderson.
Hello, boys. I understand you've been rather busy.
Did you put all the signs up?
Boy, did we. You know what, Dad? We even got Mr. Crandall to let us put one in the drugstore.
That was nice of him.
Look what I got. A dime.
For the Meteor?
Uh-huh.
What did I tell you? Boy, are we gonna clean up.
And we haven't had the signs up 5 minutes.
Why didn't we think of this before?
What a couple of dopes.
Wait a minute. Why didn't you think of what before?
The Meteor. We could have been millionaires.
You know, Mr. Anderson, it came to me last night in a flash. I was reading about all those meteors out in Oklahoma and Arizona, and I said, boy, couldn't we clean up if we had something like that?
In a backyard, sort of.
Where we could charge admission.
And then when we saw this rock...
Rock?
We said, boy, what a meteor that'd make. Didn't we, Bud?
We sure did.
Wait a minute. You mean this isn't a real meteor?
Oh, gosh, no, it's just a rock.
It is?
But it's hot. How could it be hot?
We lugged it up here in Joe's Jalopy.
And then we built a fire under it.
Oh, no.
Oh, but you don't have to worry, Mr. Anderson. It doesn't belong to anybody.
We found it in the lot where Mr. Gribble is building that apartment house.
Oh, no.
Don't you feel well, Mr. Anderson?
What's the matter, Dad?
Kathy, why didn't you tell me?
They told me it was a meteor.
We had to, Dad. You know how she is. She'd have told everybody in the neighborhood.
Bud, why can't you ever learn... What am I going to do?
About what?
About Mr. Gribble. He's on his way down to the newspaper to tell them about our meteor.
He is?
Holy cow.
Gosh, we didn't mean to...
We were just gonna fool some kids, weren't we, Joe?
Sure. That's all we were gonna do.
Daddy?
What is it, Kathy?
If you're worried about Mr. Gribble, I know what you can do.
You do?
Uh-huh. Give him back his dime.
November 29th, 1951, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Father Knows Best, November 29th, 1951.
It isn't much later as time goes, but for Jim Anderson, the moments have been endless. He's seen his entire life float agonizingly before his eyes. And while there seems to be plenty of sickening past, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of future. Not with Mr. Gribble, at any rate. Clients like Mr. Gribble are few and far between. And now look at him, gone with an old hot rock. Or practically, like this.
There's got to be something we can do. I mean, we can't just stand here.
You suppose we ought to sit down?
Joe.
Yes, Mr. Anderson?
Wouldn't you like to go home?
Oh, no. I got you into this and...
Yes?
Well, I'd like to see how you get out of it.
You know, Joe, you get more like your mother every day.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Dad, I've got an idea, but,
Well?
Kathy.
Oh, Kitten,
Yes, Daddy?
wouldn't you like to go somewhere and play?
No, Daddy.
How about doing your homework?
I don't have any homework.
Margaret!
Oh, please let me stay, Daddy. I won't say anything.
Well...
And if I do say something, I'll just tell him it was Bud's fault. And how are you supposed to know it was only an old hot rock? And anyway...
Margaret!
What is it, Jim?
Call Kathy.
What would you like me to call her?
Honey, this is no time for games. She wants to help you with the sandwiches.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Father, we're having enough trouble as it is.
Kathy?
Yes, Mommy.
Why don't you come in and help me with the sandwiches?
Say, that's a great idea.
All right, Bud. Go ahead, kitten.
Kathy?
I'm coming, Mommy. You just wait, Bud. Someday you'll be the youngest one of the family, and then see how you like it.
Bud, you said you had an idea.
Oh, how would it be if we hid the rock and told Mr. Gribble the meteor exploded?
Hey, that's terrific.
Bud,
You know, meteors do explode, Mr. Anderson.
they explode when they hit the Earth, not the next day.
Maybe this was a delayed action meteor.
No, Bud, we'll have to do better than that.
Well, what if we cover it up with dirt and tell him it disappeared?
And if he wants to know what the dirt is, we tell him we're making a mountain out of a molehill, right?
What?
Never mind. Well, it's a cinch we've got to get the rock out of sight, so let's get going.
Where do you think we ought to put it, Mr. Anderson?
I'll settle for the garage.
Okay, Joe, let's go.
I'd better give you a hand.
Oh, you don't have to, Mr. Anderson. We've been lifting it in and out all day.
You have?
Sure. We had to keep the fire going, didn't we?
Come on, let's go, Bud.
Okay. Heave.
There. That does it. Now suppose we each take an end and walk sideways.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Why don't you just roll it?
Oh, gosh, no.
It'd leave a track.
He'd find it in 2 minutes.
Pardon me.
Are you ready, Bud?
Ready.
Here we go.
Why don't you let me take one end of it?
We're doing fine, Dad.
You know, it's an amazing thing. If you boys used half as much energy working on something useful.
Mr. Anderson, could you please open the garage door?
Are you sure you don't need any help?
It isn't even heavy, is it, Joe?
Oh, gosh, no. It's light as a feather.
Well, I won't argue with you. There you are.
Let's put it down, huh?
Okay.
Joe, don't drop it.
Joe!
It slipped.
Are you all right?
Oh, sure. It wasn't heavy. It just slipped.
Hey, look at the way all that black stuff peeled off.
Well, let's not worry about that now, Bud. Let's...
Mr. Gribble.
Oh, my gosh.
Jim, my boy.
Let's get out of here.
The ashes.
What?
He'll see the ashes from the fire.
Well,
Maybe I can cover him up.
it's too late, Joe. Just, hello, J.P. Certainly didn't take you long, did it?
Jim, you know Joe Hogan of the Springfield Herald, don't you?
Oh, sure, Mr. Anderson and I are old friends, aren't we, Mr. Anderson?
Jim!
What?
The meteor, it's gone.
Gone? What do you mean, gone?
I meant to tell you about that. You see...
It was awful, Mr. Gribble.
It sure was.
What was?
Well, you see...
Somebody swiped it.
They what?
They sure did. We hadn't turned our backs more than 2 minutes and bang, it was gone.
Now, wait a minute. Who goes around swiping meteors?
Crooks?
Haven't you heard? Gosh, there's a whole gang of them. International meteor crooks.
They specialize in hot meteors.
What?
Don't they, Joe?
Sure, everybody knows that.
They do they?
Jim, what's going on here?
Well, it isn't easy to explain, J.P. You see...
Father, will you get her out of here, please?
Excuse me, J.P. What's the matter, Betty?
Kathy ate a whole plate of sandwiches. I did not.
Jim, will you please keep Kathy out there until we're finished?
Okay, honey.
Daddy, I didn't either eat a whole plate of sandwiches. It was only 16.
Kathy.
She ate 16 sandwiches?
Little little tiny ones.
Oh.
And what ride does she have to tell me? The rock.
Kathy.
What happened to the rock?
What rock?
She means the meteor.
She's very young. She can't say big words like meteor.
She calls everything a rock.
I do not.
Like rocket ships and Rocky Mountains and...
John D. Rockefeller.
November 29th, 1951. Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Father Knows Best, November 29th, 1951, The Meteor.
Bud, why don't you and Joe take Kathy away for a few minutes while I try to explain to Mr. Gribble?
But, Daddy!
Come on, knothead.
Well, stop pulling me. Why do you always have to pull me?
Mr. Anderson, don't you think maybe I ought to stay here and explain with you?
Thank you, Joe. I'll manage all right.
But nobody can get mad at us. We're fun-loving, irresponsible children.
I know, Joe, but...
Oh, we can get away with murder.
See here, Jim. How long have you been running this madhouse?
JP, I know it seems very peculiar.
Hey, Mr. Gribble, look at this. Ashes.
What?
The meteor was hot, huh?
Oh, we can explain that. You see, it landed on a bunch of wood.
Bud, what did you do with Kathy?
It's okay, Dad. I locked her in the garage.
In the garage?
Holy cow.
Oh, my gosh, I forgot.
Daddy, I found it!
Well, I guess that takes care of that.
Let me out! I found it!
Shall we move in the general direction of the garage?
Gosh, Dad, I didn't mean
It's all right, son. We should never have started this in the first place.
But you didn't start it, Mr. Anderson. We did.
Daddy!
We're coming, kitten.
Jim, if this is what I think it is, well...
I don't know what you're so mad about. I'm the one who got dragged out of a nice warm office to look at a hole full of ashes.
We'll have you out in 2 seconds, Kathy.
I don't know where the ashes came from, but there was a meteor in that hole. I've seen too many meteors in my time not to know it.
There you are, baby.
Daddy, look! I found it!
So...
JP, the whole thing started very innocently.
You weren't satisfied sharing the credit with me. You wanted the whole meteor for yourself.
I what?
How do you like that, Hogan? After all I've done for this man, treated him like my own son.
JP, you've got this all
That's
wrong.
the part that hurts, to be treated this way after all I've done.
But, JP...
It's all right, Jim. It's your meteor, and if you want to keep it for yourself, I want you to have it.
But it isn't a meteor. That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Oh, now I don't know a meteor when I see one.
But the boys found it on your lot, didn't you, boys?
You bet, Dad.
It's just an old rock.
I think you're wrong.
Hogan, it's a rock.
Yes, I know,
The boys carted it over here and built a fire under it. That's why it was warm. And then when they dropped it, all the black stuff was knocked off. Don't you see?
You mean it really isn't a meteor?
That's what I've been telling you, JP. The whole thing was a scheme the boys cooked up to promote a few dimes from the other kids in the neighborhood.
Do we have to give the dime back?
Hogan, if my name is so much as mentioned in this disgraceful affair, but so much as mentioned...
Are you all through? You mind if I say something?
Look, why don't we just forget the whole thing?
I'm willing.
I am too.
Well, I'm not. This is the biggest thing that's happened to me in years.
It is?
Hogan.
Look at this. Do you see those marks down there on the bottom of the rock?
It's writing.
SP4.
It's a message from Mars.
Just a minute. Hogan, what are you driving at?
Don't you understand? 150 years ago, when they first laid out the village of Springfield, they used a rock as a benchmark. And this is the rock.
Say that again?
This is the cornerstone of Springfield. They've been looking for it for 60 years. They'll go nuts.
I think I will, too.
Hogan, do you mean that this will get us into the State Historical Society?
They'll make you the president.
Jim, my boy.
JP, now let's be fair about this. After all, it was Bud and Joe.
I can see the headlines now. Springfield industrialist discovers cornerstone.
Here we go again.
It's breakfast time in the white frame house on Maple Street, and a rosy day it is indeed. The sun is shining indoors and out, which is a very good way for a day to be. Like this.
Wasn't it the most wonderful tea you ever saw, Mother?
Yes, dear, it was very nice.
Everyone said they had such a wonderful time. And there were 2 sandwiches left over. That wasn't any fault of yours.
I'll leave her alone, Betty. She's been a very good girl.
Thank you, Daddy.
Oh, I wish Bud would get back. I'm so anxious to see that picture.
Why couldn't he wait until they brought the newspaper?
Betty, he's only a boy.
The way Gribble acted, I don't think there'll be any papers left. He probably got up at dawn and caught them as they came off the press.
Jim, he's been very nice to you.
I know, but what a ham. Springfield Industrialist.
I got it.
Bud, is the picture in?
Girl.
Now, let's not get all excited.
Ted, will you see it? It's all over the front page.
It is. Oh, boy.
Let me have it, Bud.
Jim, I'm trembling all over.
Mr. Gribble and Dad and Joe and me on the front page.
Well, what do you know?
Oh, I want to see.
What does it say, Jim?
Oh, there's a long story about the cornerstone.
What does it say under the picture?
Read it, Father.
All right, it says, the Messrs. Anderson and Phillips, who yesterday discovered the long-missing cornerstone of Springfield. With them are Mr. Anderson's father and a friend.
Join us again next week when we'll be back with Father Knows Best, starring Robert Young as Jim Anderson, with Roy Bargy and the Maxwell House Orchestra. In our cast were Jean Vanderpyle as Margaret, Rhoda Williams, Ted Donaldson, Norma Jean Nilsson, Lou Merrill, Gil Stratton Jr., Harry Bartell, and yours truly, Bill Foreman. So until next Thursday, good night and good luck from the makers of Maxwell House, America's favorite brand of coffee. Always good to the last drop. Father Knows Best was transcribed in Hollywood and written by Ed James.
November 29th, 1951, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, another episode of The Cinnamon Bear. This originally broadcast November 29th, 1937.
Now let's see what's happening to Judy and Jimmy and the Cinnamon Bear. We left them at the bottom of Looking Glass Valley, where their airplane was forced down after Weary Willie the stork punched a hole in the fuel tank and gulped all the soda pop gas. If you remember, this made them very sad, especially because Weary Willie threatened to tell the Crazy Quilt Dragon that they were chasing him. And they were even sadder when Cinnamon Bear told them there was no way to get out of the valley.
I just know we'll never get the silver star back from Crazy Quilt. And if we don't have it to put on top of our Christmas tree...
Look, Cinnamon Bear, aren't there tools or something in the plane that we could use, to cut steps in the sides of the valley like the alpine mountain climbers do in ice?
I thought of that, Jimmy, but this looking glass is very, very hard, and it won't crack no matter what. I guess there's only one thing for us to do, children.
What's that?
Wait until it rains.
But I don't see what that will do to help us get out of here, Cinnamon Bear.
That's just because you've never been in Maybeland before. You see, when it rains here, it rains soda pop.
I see what you mean. Then we'd be able to fill up the airplane and fly out just the way we came in.
Exactly.
But when is it going to rain?
Oh, me, oh, my. That's something I didn't think about. It might rain tomorrow, and again, it might not rain until the next 4th of September.
Well, we can't wait around for a soda pop rainstorm. I wish I knew something magic to say that would just scoot us right to the top of that cliff.
Look, Cinnamon Bear, here comes Weary Willie, that bad old stork.
So it is. And I must say he has a nerve coming back after drinking up all our soda pop gas.
As soon as he gets close enough to hear me, I'm sure going to tell him a thing or two.
Oh, don't do that, Jimmy. I have a better idea. He's an awfully conceited person, and if we flatter him a bit, maybe he'll feel ashamed of himself and help us get out of here.
Hello, below!
I'd like to punch him in the beak.
Don't talk so loud, Jimmy. Remember what Cinnamon Bear said.
Yeah, we must be very, very polite.
I say, hello, below!
I'm sorry we haven't any more soda pop, Weary Willie. Both for your sakes and ours. We're stuck here and we can't get out.
By Jove, I'm deucedly unhappy to hear that, old man.
In fact, I'm rather saddish to think that I was instrumental in causing your downfall. But I was confoundedly thirsty, you know, and when I'm thirsty, it brings out all the primitive in me.
I don't exactly know what you mean, Mr. Stork. But whatever it is, I hope you feel better now.
Oh, I feel ripping, absolutely ripping. In fact, I feel so ripping that I should like nothing better at the moment than a good rousing game of ping-pong. Are any of you ping-pong minded?
No, we don't feel like it at all. Besides, we don't have anything to play it with.
Oh, so we don't. It's just as well, too, because I'm a bit sloppish at ping-pong anyhow. For some reason, I always ping when I should pong and vice versa.
Well, Mr. Stork, I suppose you did what you said you would and told that Crazy Quilt Dragon that we were chasing him to get the Silver Star back.
By Jove, I did. I've such a beastly rotten temper at times. I was provoked because you wouldn't give me a lift. I just went stork mad for a moment, but I'm terrifically sorry, really. You've no idea how sorry.
Lot of good that does us now, Weary Willie.
I have it. I'll fly you out of Looking Glass Valley.
That'll be grand of you, won't it, children?
You bet. Let's
go.
Very well, then. How will we manage it?
Let me see now. Do you think we could all get on your back?
Oh, of course. I've a strapping physique, you know. Played rugby and all that. Oh, yes. I can carry all three of you without batting an eye.
Well, let's hurry, please.
By all means. Shan't delay a jot longer. Now, I'll kneel me down and you may all ascend.
You go first, Judy.
All right. I'm on.
And now you, Jimmy.
Okay. There, all set.
Now me.
All aboard, Patio Cinnamon?
All aboard, Willie.
Then hold on tight. The hop up to the top of the cliff will be most grueling for me. I'll have to exert every last ounce of my marvelous strength. Are you ready, my friends?
Ready.
Then we're off. Pip, pip.
Whee! Isn't this wonderful?
Gee, we're climbing way up to the top.
We've made it. Congratulations, Willie.
Oh, don't mention it. It was nothing.
Thank goodness we got out of that valley.
Can you see the Crazy Quilt Dragon anywhere, Judy or Jimmy?
No, I can't. I guess he got tired of looking at himself in Looking Glass Valley and went someplace else.
Oh, dear. Where do you suppose he went?
Oh, according to my recollection of Crazy Quilt's habits, he's apt to be taking a siesta at this hour.
What does he mean, Jimmy?
I don't exactly know, but I'll bet Cinnamon Bear does.
He means that about this time every day, Crazy Quilt generally takes a nap.
Righto. And if I may enlarge upon my statement, he frequently takes his siesta in the vicinity of the Root Beer Ocean.
Could you take us there, Willie?
Oh, it would give me untold joy to do so, my friend. I feel it incumbent upon me to make amends for my caddish conduct this afternoon. How would you like to have me fly this time, fast or slow?
Oh, fast, Mr. Stork.
As fast as you can. We've just got to catch up with Crazy Quilt.
Righto. Here we go. Pip, pip.
When you fly fast, you really fly fast, don't you, Willie?
Oh, but definitely. Some call me the streamlined stork.
And you sure brought us to the right spot, Mr. Stork. There's Crazy Quilt right over there, and he's sound asleep.
And look, he's got the Silver Star right under his nose.
Aha, the villain has been brought to bay. We'll just hand him the surprise of his life.
Pardon me, my friends, but may I be of any further service?
No, thank you, Willie. It's been most kind of you to carry us here.
You were wonderful, Mr. Stork. Thanks a million.
Oh, not at all. After my unmitigated thirst caused you to make a forced landing in an inaccessible locality, it was little enough for me to make amends in the small manner in which I have.
And it was very big of you.
And as a final favor, will you allow me the pleasure of sending you an autographed copy of my latest travel book? It's bound in purple alligator skin, printed on
I'll
vellum.
be thrilled to death. Just send it to Patio Cinnamon, General Delivery, Wintergreen Forest.
Oh, but I didn't finish telling you
Thanks
about
a lot, Willie. You've been a brick.
Oh, yes, so I have. Well, I must pop along now, my dear friends, and I wish you success in your endeavor.
Goodbye.
Pip, pip.
So long, Willie.
Well, that's over. He sure talks a blue streak.
Yeah, but he turned out to be a big help after all. Now let's surprise Crazy Quilt. I see he's still snoozing away over there.
How'll we do it, Cinnamon Bear?
Well, he's right near the cliff overlooking the Root Beer Ocean. So the thing to do is to close in on him from three sides. Now, Jimmy, you take that side, Judy the other, and I'll walk straight at him.
All right. Come on.
Isn't it exciting, Jimmy?
Not too loud or you'll wake him up. When we get near enough, one of you can snatch the Silver Star from under his nose.
What's that?
Oh, dear, it's one of those military-minded mosquitoes, and he's making right for Crazy Quilt.
What goes on here?
Willikers! He bit Crazy Quilt right on the nose and woke him up.
And just when we were about to get our silver star.
We'll have to try something else. Hey, you, Crazy Quilt.
I'm very busy right now, Cinnamon Bear. I'll speak to you some other time.
He's trying to run away. Close in on him, children. Come on, let's go now. Hurry up. Get over this way, get over there. That's it. We got him backed up right on the edge of the cliff.
Why, I don't understand. What does all this mean?
You know what it means, Crazy Quilt. We've got you this time.
Where's our silver star?
Silver Star? What Silver Star?
Don't try to quibble, Crazy Quilt. Hand it over gratefully and you can go your way.
Oh, what a terrible mistake you've made. Why, I've never seen this Silver Star you're talking about. You must have the wrong party.
You have too got it. I can see it even if you are trying to hide it. It's our silver star, and we've got to have it to put on top of the Christmas tree.
You stole it out of that trunk, and you know it.
What? Oh, come. You think I would do such a wicked thing as steal? Oh.
You still insist that you didn't take it, Crazy Quilt?
I repeat, I have not seen it.
We'll have to scare him. Let's go.
Wow, scram, you bad dragon.
Scat, skidoo.
Oh, how funny.
Garah.
Boo.
Boo.
Oh, help. Oh, don't ever do that.
He's slipping over the edge of the cliff. He fell into the ocean. Right into the root beer ocean. Quick, we'd better run down so we can head him off when he comes out of the water. Come on.
Hurry up, Judy.
I'm coming.
We get him. He can't escape this time. There. He's just coming up on the beach.
Oh, I'm so unhappy. Such unkind people to say boo to a Crazy Quilt Dragon. Don't you know you should never do that?
Why shouldn't we?
Well, I'll tell you.
Don't ever say boo to a Crazy Quilt Dragon in hopes he'll turn tail and run. There aren't many words that will make him go crazy, but boo is decidedly one. You can say cheese it or scat if you please, it will certainly bother him none. Now shoo or skidoo, sir, would not be taboo, sir, but booing is just never done. Don't ever say boo to a Crazy Quilt Dragon, no, never, not even in fun. Remember, a Crazy Quilt's colors are fast and are guaranteed never to run.
That was very pretty, Crazy Quilt, but you did run. So I guess you aren't as guaranteed as you think.
Oh, but I didn't run. I jumped. Go ahead and laugh. Oh, I suppose I deserve it for giving way to my baser self. But if you only knew how weak I am when something beautiful and shiny attracts me. So when I found the silver star...
You mean when you stole it?
Well, if you want to put it that way. Oh, I would never have taken it if I'd known how much it meant to you. May I apologize and ask your forgiveness?
You mean you're sorry, Crazy Quilt?
Oh, of course, little girl.
And you won't ever do it again?
Oh, never, never, never.
That's fine. Now everything will be hunky-dory if you'll just return the silver star to us.
Of course. Only...
Only what?
Only it dropped out of my mouth when I jumped off the cliff, and it's lost in the root beer ocean.
Well, they've got the Crazy Quilt Dragon all right, but they haven't got the Silver Star. It looks like a lot of strange adventures are in store for Judy and Jimmy and the Cinnamon Bear before they retrieve their lost treasure. So let's be sure to listen next time and see what happens.
Some truly great voices still air the Cinnamon Bear to this day, particularly around the Portland, Oregon area that still carry the show. And believe it or not, Judy Barton was portrayed by Barbara Jean Wong, one of the first Asian Americans to participate in broadcasting and radio and television. And she did such a wonderful job with this. She was in a number of movies, but her primary thing that she is known for today is the Cinnamon Bear, Chinese American. Is her nationality. And, of course, a number of other names. Joseph Kearns is the Crazy Quilt Dragon. Verna Felton as their mom. Gail Gordon, Evia Allman, Joe Duvall, Frank Nelson, Hanley Stafford, Howard McNear, and more. You'll hear on this Cinnamon Bear that'll be running through Christmas here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We do have a web page for more information. That's at classicradio.stream. At classicradio.stream, you can stream our shows. You can learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me there. You can find our social media links and more. And you can also buy me a copy. The Buy Me a Copy money helps us expand our classic radio theater collection and keep our distribution channels open. That's at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.